Welcome to the Amatoria podcast with Marvin Allen and Justin Dong. Join us for a journey through the art of love across the world, guided by timeless wisdom and lived experience.
Yeah, you're the one responsible. And learning to see that little boy you that learned all these mechanisms unconsciously and would sabotage and disappoint yourself, disappoint the girl, hurt yourself, hurt the girl, whatever, that this little boy has to grow and become a man. And for that to happen, you have to realize, oh man, it's me. It's all me, Because in hindsight, I know like the girls that I liked, some of them would like me actually. Like I vaguely remember some things some cues that it would indicate, oh, she actually likes me. But I would be like, nah, man. Nah. Me? Nah.
There's a need for boys to graduate to men, and that ritual, that rite of passage, also involves dealing with your dark side, your aggression, your potential for violence, right? And integrating that into you as a whole adult human being, as a man in society. And that, I also feel like that kind of rite of passage, that ritual is completely missing in modern society. So that's why we have these groups like the Amorati, communities that foster a sense of that you can actually try and develop that part of yourself as a man. And it's sad that it's necessary, but in society, it's not happening at the moment.
Well, here's the thing. I'm going to be controversial here. Women love dangerous men. But the dangerous men will never be dangerous to her. Ever. And Marvin, what you talked about is integrating your darkness, your shadow side, your aggression. There's a sort of refined aggression in a man where he has power, but he doesn't have to use force everywhere. Woman sees that and realizes, okay, if I'm with this man, because there's some biological level to this as well. If someone tries to kidnap your woman, is she with a polite Belgian, American, German society guy who's been told, oh, you defend yourself or the people you love. You can't kill and die because that is the peak of masculine, the way that men have always been for all of time, to defend the people they love, and men have no sense of that.
Because there is no middle ground. Either you become a castrated guy or you become a jerk. And bitter and jaded and dangerous.
Yeah, you get your balls cut off by society.
Like you said, his danger turns towards her, the family, and there's domestic violence or rape or whatever, But there's no middle ground. Where the hell do you find men who have the charm, the respect, but also the massive desire and no fear around it, Like, hey, I'm a man.
I remember this quote from Bukowski. I'll read it here. I see men assassinated around me every day. I walk through rooms of the dead, streets of the dead, cities of the dead. Men without eyes, men without voices, men with manufactured feelings and standard reactions, men with newspaper brains, television souls, and high school ideas. That's the world we live in. Men had it bad for all of history. Life has never been better than it is now. And men have never been worse with women than now. So when you see a girl you like, the chances of a man knowing and courting her and seducing her and charming her in a real authentic way is at the absolute minimum it's ever been in history. Because boys are raised on TikTok and YouTube and Instagram. So if you were to show up, such a rare occurrence in her life, and this girl, obviously girls posting about, oh, I hate being approached. But 95%, I read this about this study, 95% of women wish they were approached more often by a man in a respectful way. And they, of course, girls they can't say, I want to be approached by a man who knows how to fuck. They can't say that because they get judged for this, right? But that's a very real, that's the reality that we live in. And you can be respectful and sexual. Marvin, we talk about the respectful man all the time. Of course you're respectful. You would never do it.
Did you say that?
Respectful man. You would never let anything bad happen to her. You would say something. You would let me do whatever I want to you, wouldn't you? And she would like it. she would like it because she feels something in her body instead of this brain knowledge that all of us have way too much of. Information, not transformation.
We are the guardians of each other. Like as a species, we have to be there for each other. That's to me the most important thing, because I really feel we are stewards of ourselves, and we have lost our way for sure. And that makes life worth living. Other people, and connecting. Because if you don't connect, I mean, what is there to live for?
But not in a people-pleasing way. Finding your tribe and your people and really dying and fighting. You would live for them, you would kill, and you would die for them kind of people.
Exactly. And I think that's a profoundly, now that you rephrased it like this is what men were born to do,
Welcome back. You're listening to the Amatoria podcast. My name is Justin, and I'm here with my co-host Marvin. How are you, bro?
Good, as always, man. Life is good in Brazil.
Yeah, as always, in Brazil. Lucky man. And we have a very special guest with us today. We have Rafael, who's in the Amorati. And who are you, man? Like, where have you been? And where were you with women? Where are you now? What's your dating hero's journey? And how do we know each other? And what's your specialty, man? Like, what's your story?
That's such a big question. Sometimes I wonder about the answer myself. Yeah, it's been a crazy ride, for sure. I met you guys through the Ars Amorata, of course. It was at a conference in Bucharest, together with Zan, Jordan, the whole crew, a couple of years ago. I don't remember exactly which year that was. Do you?
I want to say 22. Maybe it was, I think at the first conference I went to, we met, and that was in September 2022. Marvin, you were there as well. We met not at the conference.
I was in 23.
Wasn't it?
I was in 23. I was
23.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
But I think we met before then.
We did.
I
actually... I had already gone to the conference one or two times when I met you, and I've seen you grow too, man. Like I've seen you, your journey too. That's pretty wild. But
appreciate that.
Yeah, my own journey, man, fucking started many years ago. I used to be very introverted. I wouldn't say naturally introverted, but more in the social anxiety, insecurity, super shy, nice guy, like most of us in this group are, I guess. And yeah, like lots of frustration, lots of like not understanding what was going on with myself, knowing where my place was in the world, my place amongst men, my place amongst women, my relationship with women, So all of this questioning. And I remember back in the days, I didn't even know I was questioning it so much because I had no idea what was like the normal behavior, quote unquote normal. I definitely remember when I was around 16, 17, I used to check out these weird French-speaking forums on seduction. Was called Art of Seduction in French. And I was just fascinated by how they would explain the whole process. Like, and how the stories they would tell about their successes and all the, the aliveness that came out of their words. And I definitely felt alive inside while reading all these stories, But once I would go out the door, that aliveness would be nowhere to find, And so it was very much a mental thing. So that's how I kind of stumbled onto it. I don't really remember how. That's a while ago. But anyways, sorry?
Long time ago. Yeah. Long time ago. You've been studying this a long time.
So yeah, that was the beginning. And then through that, I stumbled onto the pickup stuff, PUA and all these words and all that jargon and all the specific
RSD
methods, techniques and all whatnot.
Yeah,
terminology. Exactly.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is I would read about it. I read a lot, I wouldn't read fiction anymore. I used to read so much fiction back then, like fantasy and all that stuff. Completely thrown out the door. And I started reading all of that. The thing is, I would feel too cringy, too shy to even apply all of that. And it didn't make sense to me, like I would feel so unnatural. I would already cringe at myself, but then I would extra cringe at having to force some kind of line that was totally not congruent with this, So I was like,
Yeah.
man, the hell, how do I do? What do I do?
I gotta hop in, Rafa, because a lot of guys struggle with that. They read these instruction manuals, they read these pickup books, they take a boot camp even, and they're told to be someone that fundamentally isn't them. And so it feels so strange to say the things that work. Martin and I just had a podcast, and we were talking about the importance of just going out and doing it. And Zan says, the pickup artist movement worked because it got guys out of their basement eating Cheetos, playing video games, and into the land of women. So when you pay a pickup coach thousands of dollars to show you what to do, and you talk to 25 women, let's say, and 7 of them like you and 18 of them reject you, you would have gotten the same result if you had gone and done it yourself. So I think your journey of transformation is one of the coolest things, from disembodied in your head to fully embodied in your body. And it relates to what you do with your body massage and your psychotherapy, if you want to speak a bit about that. Marvin, do you have any thoughts before we delve into that?
No, go ahead, Rafael. I'll jump in later.
Sure thing. Okay. Yeah, so exactly, Justin. It's so true. Like many... Even myself, I used to, when I found a better way, I used to demonize all the pickup stuff already. Like, that's bullshit, that's manipulation, I don't know. But in the end, if you go out because of it, thanks to it, and you talk to girls, you talked to girls,
Yeah.
Maybe it was super awkward, cringy, whatever, I don't know. But you did go out and and you talked, and it gave you hope. That's maybe the word that I would use for myself. It did give me hope. Like, oh man, I'm not so broken because some other guys who were fucked up actually found out about this stuff and put it in action and got results. So I'm like, wow, man, I'm not a lost case, So that was also like a great thing for me to...
Maybe you could dive a bit...
Sorry?
Maybe you could dive a bit more deeper into this. You mentioned a lot of frustration you felt in the beginning. Probably also a lot of pain. Like, I always like to highlight that because that's probably where a lot of guys are at, and that's where we also came from. Like, could you expand a bit more on that frustration and how you eventually maybe use that pain also to push you forward to develop yourself more?
Wow, that's a deep question, man. That's a very deep question. It's, to me, it felt like some kind of endless journey of disappointment. I would have hope. I would feel attracted. I would feel maybe appreciated or seen by a particular girl I liked, and I would have hope. But then my hope would be crushed because, well, now in hindsight, I didn't take action. I didn't have the confidence. I didn't have the solid frame from where I live now. Back then, so I would sabotage it. I would fuck it up, like the phrase you've heard many times is like, when there's attraction, it's there, and you have to shut up, because if you talk, you fuck it up,
Well, just let me expand on that. If I can expand on what you're saying. The best way to lose girls. The best way to lose girls is actually to talk way too much. It's by doing way too much is how you lose women, when you already had a connection from the start, if that's what you're saying, Rafael.
Yeah, exactly. So it would be massive disappointment in myself, heartbreak. Man, like, since I have memory of me liking girls, wow, man. I used to be this heartbroken little boy, like constantly heartbroken all the time, like longing for like the girls and all that shit. That was crazy, man. I used to be so heartbroken. Wow.
It's funny because so many of us come from this place of, we really, really like girls from a deep place within us and just cannot understand for the life of us why they don't like them back.
And they actually
don't like us back.
They actually do, and I don't know, like through whatever happened in your childhood or whatever, you fuck it up. you fuck it up, and that's one of the biggest revelations I had recently. Like even nowadays, I think a lot about how am I sabotaging this? How am I contributing or handing over my responsibility in this relationship, in this dynamic? How am I the cause of my own pain, disappointment, misery? Of course, it's not always
Wow, man.
my thing.
So what would you say?
That's the shift, from being this little scared, heartbroken boy to becoming a man. I feel that is the most important thing is to realize you're the one with, you're the one responsible, and learning to see that little boy you that learned all these mechanisms unconsciously, and would sabotage and disappoint yourself, disappoint the girl, hurt yourself, hurt the girl, whatever, that this little boy has to grow and become a man. And for that to happen, you have to realize, oh man, it's me. It's all me,
Beautiful.
It's all me. And
well said, man.
Because in hindsight, I know like the girls that I liked, some of them would like me actually. Like I vaguely remember some things some cues that it would indicate, oh, she actually likes me. But I would be like, nah, man, nah, me, nah.
Well, let me ask you, Rafa, because that's where you started, and it's completely relatable and totally understandable, and it's not your fault because society. And you're from Belgium, right? Yes. We just had Matthew on 2 days ago, and the way you are raised is you are a bad person for being a man. You cannot have desires. You cannot even compliment a woman in the workplace, in school. What do you want from me? You're sexually harassing me. But that is such a beautiful masculine energy that is just repressed societally. So it's not men's fault. But at the same time, like you said, you have to find your personal responsibility. You have to acknowledge it to yourself, right? And that's your journey. And I'd be curious to hear where you're at now. When you see a beautiful woman, what is your style now? What is your approach? What is different from the man that stands before her now versus that scared little boy who liked girls so much that didn't know what to do? Who are you today with women? How do you show up in their lives?
What did you say that the last couple of words I didn't get?
How do you, who are you to the women that you meet today? And how do you show up as a man with them? I'm curious, what is your style and your specific approach?
It's still hard for me to pinpoint what my style is because I'm still very much on the journey to uncover it and to explore different facets, because I never wanted to be this one-dimensional guy who become a robot, basically. Like, I don't know, like approach this woman and this woman and that woman all in the same way because it worked in the past. So I've always been a guy who likes to improvise. And I don't know, I'm a massive improviser, even though I used to have massive anxiety. I still do sometimes. But I love to improvise. Yeah. Like the creativity and this aliveness and this like, man, I have no idea what's going to happen. That makes me come alive and feel like, holy shit, man, this is great. This is life. I love it. So when it comes to women, my approach, if you want to know specifically about like daytime approaching in the street, which is what I like most.
I've seen it, by the way. I'll tell a quick story. We're at this taco place in Bucharest on the main street where all the beautiful girls walk by in the daytime, and there's 4 of us. Marvin, I think you were there, and we all break our necks to see this beautiful Romanian girl. Romanian girls are pretty, and you were gone, man. You were just gone. It was like a default instinct. Something that you and Matthew and Sana do is you just go, even if you're anxious, even if you have fear, because you still have it, right? It's just how you respond to it that's different from in the past, right? So I want to add that on before you explain.
Yeah, and I remember that girl, man. Holy shit.
She was fine.
She was floating the
walk.
Was
a piece of art.
She was literally floating on the street, and so sweet. Like, wow. I was really nervous, by the way. That pressure, like,
but you were explaining your approach. Like, you're explaining what goes through your head when you see a girl like that.
To me, the easiest approach is the least is going on in my head, the better. Because as soon as I get in my head, then the things start like, oh man, I'm sitting at the stairs. There's people around. They're watching. I have some friends. I cannot fail in front of them. Look at my
Right.
shoes. They're not really on point today. You know, all kinds of bullshit. But if
Yeah.
but if there's nothing going on in my head and I just feel a sensation, like something calls me forth to her because something in her, just like that moment, I have to get up and I have to go, because if I don't, I'll stay there. I'll make excuses, you know, and that will never change. Well, it changed a little bit. It's less like full-on excuses, but I just learned to act upon the moment, because not all women give me like nourish me in this way, you know. But there are some that just walk by or I cross eyes or whatever, and I'm like something, you know, like just whatever, something about her.
Something about her.
Wow, man.
Yeah.
And then I have to go, you know. And whatever happens then is like the time I'm like walking over, like jogging over, whatever, catching up. That's when the mind starts kicking in, but the body is moving, so it's fine.
Yeah, that's very interesting. You mentioned this the point when you see her and you have a physical sensation, right? Your body, your whole being reacts to her in some way, and that's a very beautiful thing. That means that there is something there that's worth exploring.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I wonder if we talked a lot about this before. Like if you don't honor this part of yourself that's authentically that has a desire in the world, and you don't honor this part for long enough, I believe that eventually that part will die within you. If you don't honor a part of yourself and you don't integrate it into your being and you don't act upon it, then that part will stop showing up eventually, and that's a part of who you are as a man, of your authentic desire for something in the world. So it's do you realize, or do you notice that too in yourself? Like if you look back and on all the times that you didn't act upon this beautiful desire that you felt, like what that did to yourself, to your respect for yourself and your confidence.
I'm trying to find an example like of something. You know, it's like, are you guys coffee drinkers? Morning coffee drinkers?
Like tea. I'm Chinese.
Yeah.
Yeah, same thing.
You know, like if I have this, I haven't approached in a while, you know, and then suddenly I do. It's like, holy shit, I've been missing out on so much. It's a bit like the morning coffee. It's the same thing, you know. Like if I don't have my coffee in the morning, which never happens, by the way, but if I don't, for some reason, like the hours go by and I just feel like you know, like heavy and not much juice, you know. And then I have a coffee, man. That coffee
You go through
just,
withdrawals.
expands my whole being, you know. Like my body comes alive. I'm looking around again. Like there's some motivation. I want to do stuff. I'm curious about stuff. I want to read. I want to do. You know, it's the same thing. If I don't approach for a while, that part of me shrivels without me noticing, because it's progressive. And suddenly, for some reason, I do approach, or I remember, maybe I should, you know, and I do it. Then I'm like, whoa, man! It's just, yeah, massive amount of energy released. You know, like, whoa,
So
man,
it's-
feel alive. Colors are more defined. You know, like kinds of, like really for real. To me, it really definitely has this kind of side effect. Everything feels more vibrant, looks more vibrant, and that's stuff.
Amazing.
It sounds like you go through withdrawals if you don't go talk to a girl that you like.
I'm a total addict, man. I need help.
And the extension is you come alive. You
Yes.
gain energy from talking to women. It's like
You know
a hit
what?
of coffee. It's like a hit of caffeine. It's
You
like
know
a
what? Lately, spring is back in Belgium, so there's more sun, there's more skin revealed, And I've been having fun just enjoying the side of women without necessarily approaching, which is okay for me because it somehow nourishes me too. And this is a bit new for me actually,
So,
because I used to be like, man, you didn't approach that, you know, you should. And now I'm just like, yeah, okay, that's wow, wow. Yeah, I'm fine with just saying it.
it's probably because you know that you've done it so many times that you know that you have the ability that you could do it. Maybe that gives you some peace of mind of being like, okay, I can also soak in this beauty. I don't have to act immediately upon it.
Spot on.
I would assume.
It's exactly the same reason why, as a little boy, you would self-sabotage all your interactions with women, well, in my case, without even realizing it, because it's something that is based on your reference experience and something that was kind of put onto you, circumstance, environment, family, whatever. And by approaching, deep down, I shifted that exact same thing. It shifted, which means that now when I see, for example, a woman or many women that I'm like, wow, part of me, like you said, relaxed and knows, oh, I could, but I don't need to, you know. It's the same mechanism as a little boy who
Yeah.
would presuppose, that's maybe the right word, like presuppose this is not possible for me. Now I'm presupposing this would be possible for me. It's just a totally different frame of reference. Like the presupposition, like perspectives, like
Well,
Zamperion talks about perspectives.
so we talk a lot on this podcast about the intro, how you feel about yourself, and if you feel worthy enough to go talk to a woman. That is, of course, the intro level, but that is where most guys are. I'm curious, Rafa, because at the point where you're at, because you know and you've proven to yourself that you can talk to any girl that you want, you are more picky in a way. You're more selective, right? Like you feel like, wow, okay, this girl, wow, they're nice to look at. I don't know if I have much of a connection with them, but you can tell your perception is deeper and stronger, and you can see when you meet a girl that you really like. Let's shift the conversation into more in a relationship. You do a lot of body therapy and a lot of psychotherapy, and I wonder how does that apply to, instead of approaching like a machine a bunch of women at a shallow level about connecting as deep as you possibly can with one woman, how does your practice relate to that? Because it's another level that you've come to now, instead of the intro level of needing to, and it's a necessary level. You do have to talk to a lot of women to get comfortable around women. You can't skip that. But what about where you're at now?
I like to use the word substance. I need to feel substance. Like it's,
Okay.
yeah, maybe she's got a nice ass. Maybe like, wow, the skin tone is amazing. But if there is nothing going on there, like behind her eyes, and I cannot sense something clicking or a potential, some kind of soulfulness, if that makes sense, I'm gone, man. I'm like, eh. Yeah, yeah.
Something deeper.
It doesn't
Something
need to
more
be,
than just her
yeah, it
being
doesn't need
hot.
to be something deep, as in philosophical depth or whatever, but there needs to be some kind of soulfulness to her, like a sweetness, something nourishing that triggers my natural curiosity, attraction, beyond just nice ass. I need that, even though nice ass is also very valid. Like, of course.
Very.
I mean, that was the whole problem for me. Because you mentioned at some point Belgium and stuff, in the 90s there have been some massive scandals here about pedophilia, rapings and shit. And it was massive, man. It was tied to politics. So there were like demonstrations on the streets and suddenly all men were potential rapists. I was born in the 90s. I think Mathieu that you had on the previous call, he's also from the 90s. So we were very much products of that era. And Belgium, it's not a big country, but things go around. And that there was an ambience of men are dangerous pedophiles, rapists, and all that stuff. And I can really remember moments where my parents, my mother would like, not be very happy with masculine expressions, you know. So yeah, that part of saying like nice is very valid to me.
Build on your point.
To me, for a very long time, I couldn't connect to that because I was like, oh no, you know, this is not good. You know, this is not. I'm not supposed to feel that. I'm not supposed to say that. I have to be polite and respectful. Like, you know, the word respect is thrown a lot at guys. You know, like you have to respect women, but it's taken to the extreme. You know, like that's not showing your desire, your innate lust for a woman, hiding that. Yes, for life actually.
Yeah.
Does that actually mean I respect her and respect life? You know, like what the hell?
Well, it sounds like some men, especially in Western Europe and the United States, Canada, are so respectful to women that they're disrespectful to themselves and their authentic desires, right? And I wanted to jump in on what you said about the behavior of a few number of men made every other man in Belgian society guilty by association, right? So the behavior of like the scandal you were talking about created a great cultural shame about men being comfortable with their desires and being honest and authentic and respectful at the same time. And also saying, wow, look at you, you know, there's a deep sexual energy that is completely repressed and shut off because of the behavior of these certain people, right? In society you were talking about in the 90s. That's incredible that something like that can happen.
Yeah.
You know, like, and you're a young boy and you grew up with this, right? Told from every source to suppress that part of yourself because of the, you know, things that weren't even related to you.
Yeah, totally. But I mean, at the same time, you know, like I've suffered a lot because of that as a kid. But at the same time, I do understand men can be dangerous, you know, like, and there needs to be a very clear difference between what respect and what danger is, you know. Which is quite lacking in discourse around seduction and around daily life, basically.
Yeah, we basically talked about this like in the last podcast we did, that there's a need for boys to graduate to men, and that ritual, that rite of passage, also involves dealing with your dark side, your aggression, your potential for violence, right? And integrating that into you as a whole adult human being, as a man in society. And that, I also feel like that kind of rite of passage, that ritual is completely missing in modern society. So that's why we have these groups like the Amorati, like, you know, communities that foster a sense of that you can actually try and develop that part of yourself as a man. And it's sad that it's necessary, but in society, it's not happening at the moment.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. I'm going to be controversial here. Women love dangerous men, but the dangerous men will never be dangerous to her, ever. And Marvin, what you talked about is integrating your darkness, your shadow side, your aggression. There's a sort of refined aggression in a man where he has power, but he doesn't have to use force everywhere, you know? It's a semantic distinction. But woman sees that and realizes, okay, if I'm with this man, because there's some biological level to this as well, right? If someone tries to kidnap your woman, is she with a polite Belgian, American, German society guy who's been told, oh, you defend yourself or the people you love. You can't kill and die for, you know, because that is the peak of masculine, the way that men have always been through all of time, to defend the people they love, you know, and men have no sense of that. To build on what you said, Marvin.
And it's tragic, but because there is no middle ground. Either you become a castrated
Yes.
guy, or you become a jerk and
Literally.
irritated and dangerous.
Yeah, you get your balls cut
violent,
off by society.
Like you said, his danger turns towards her, the family, and there's domestic violence or rape or whatever, But there's no middle ground. Where the hell do you find men who have the charm, the respect, but also the massive desire and no fear around it? Like, hey, I'm a man.
Yeah.
Do you feel it? Do you feel I'm a man? I like it. I like it too. Yes,
I like what I see.
But where the hell do you find these places? And these men who have become that in a conscious way or semi-conscious way, but more importantly, can transmit that in a conscious way. Like, hey, I can actually explain to you the whole process and guide you through it. I feel, honestly, guys, I feel like you, Marvin, Justin, me, Mathieu, and many of the Amorati who get serious about the path, we're in the cycle of the seasons, there's a rebirth going on of what it means to be like an integrated man.
Yes.
The Jordan Peterson definition, like what it means to be a good man. Probably read the quote, right? No? Like,
are you talking about you have to be a monster?
Not a harmless man. The good man is like a beast that learned to control it consciously. Exactly.
To control
itself.
It's
integrated, So
makes sense.
You actually get acquainted to your own danger, which means you can actually feel what it is and you can do something with it or about it. Whereas if you never get in touch with that, it just explodes out of nowhere onto your environment, and you can cause damage and problems. So where the hell do you find these guides? I truly feel that we're becoming these shamans, maybe, who will guide the next generations of lost boys into like questioning and being, oh man, holy shit, like I don't need to be this jerk to have success with women and in life. And I can see that being a little wimp basically won't get me anywhere. So but these guys, they seem to be onto something, So I feel like we have a massively important role to play in our century, for sure. I'm convinced of it. I used to be a bit like jokingly saying it, like, but I'm realizing more and more that it takes a certain kind of mindset, certain kind of curiosity and courage and willpower to really dig deep into this stuff and understand it inside out, so you can explain it to anybody else. Like, to meet them where they are at. Because if you speak in riddles, nobody gets it. So what we're doing is super important.
Just cold hard truth.
I wish I would have had all of this for myself like 20 years ago. Fuck's sake, man. Like, yeah.
Could you imagine? There's an aspect of just pure, timeless masculine wisdom that is so absent from this generation that we live in. Boys have their balls chopped off from the first time they go to school, and some never reclaim that. You talked about rebirth. What if your whole experience, whether you're 20, 30, 40, 50 now, has been this politically correct, nice guy, be respectful and disrespect yourself? What if you could kill that old part of yourself? But the thing is, you have to be very careful here, because so many guys go completely in the other direction. They start to blame women. They think it is the fault of women. But women are just as struggling as men right now. And women all over the world are asking, where are the real men? And the answer is, you turn them into a woman with the way society is going, And so there's this masculine, Marvin, you said it beautifully, where boys never become men. Men are 40, 50 years old in their job, and they're still boys because they never went through that initiation to go from boyhood to manhood and all the beautiful, dark, and kind aspects that are fully integrated into what women would consider a real man. And it's completely absent. And I think of these the kids that grew up on this TikTok, YouTube, Instagram generation, prioritizing entertainment, content, and the biggest aspiration of being a YouTuber, so to speak, than to be a great, great adventurer, to be a king, to be a pirate, to be a real man with masculine edge. And it's completely absent from the cultural discourse. So you're right, man. I agree with you, Rafael. It's a needed message in this day. And we're not the only ones spreading it, but we truly, truly think that you have to integrate the kindness and the edge and the empathy, the darkness and the light. Because otherwise, if you compensate too far in the other direction, you hate women, you are too sexual, you're a pig, you're a thing, but men are just either one or the other. And there's no men that are both.
Maybe you could speak a bit to the importance of community in your journey. So you have the luck of having Sana and Mathieu close by where you live.
Yes.
You met the Amorati, you're in other groups of men. What role has that played and how has that affected your journey as a man?
Community, man, I think is the future. Sorry. I really believe that community, because we're built to be in community, to live in community, to thrive in community. The family unit, that's a nice thing. It was a nice experiment, but it didn't work really well, did it? I do believe the future will be families living in community, that kind of stuff. Why is that so important? Because there's social control, and I mean, if somebody goes off on the wrong path, there's many people that could help and do something about it. And there's less chance that, for example, a boy that is really having a hard time won't find a guide like a man to look up to in a community. I'm not only talking about community in the sense of brotherhood and camaraderie, because that's also very important, but I'm talking about tackling it at the root, which means little boys who have real life examples of real men who are worthy to look up to. That would erase the whole problem in the first place, So I think if you look at tribes in the world, they very much have like a system in place where the men do men-worthy stuff, and the boys look up to them. You're like, wow, I want to be like him one day, I want to be part of that band of like wild hunters, whatever. They look up to them, We don't have it. I mean, who the fuck looks up? I'm sorry, maybe you do, but who the fuck looks up to your dad if your dad is somebody who comes at home at 8 p.m. With his suit, barely looks at you, eats his food, goes to sleep every day. Like, what the hell?
Where's my dad is a great warrior that killed the brave buffalo.
Another worthy role model, except in movies, except on TikTok. Like, oh, this fucking Andrew Tate, this guy, he does have some valid points, but it's just all a show. It's clickbait, He doesn't care about anybody. He just cares about his clicks and how much money he can make out of it. Is that a guy you look up to?
Right. And you know why? You know why his message is so popular? It's because men have no good message. And so even that is a good message compared to what they're spoon-fed from the very young age. So, and in a way, yes, and that's true. And dude, when you guys were talking, I remember this quote from Bukowski. I'll read it here. 1 second. I guess it's not there anymore. I see men assassinated around me every day. I walk through rooms of the dead, streets of the dead, cities of the dead. Men without eyes, men without voices, men with manufactured feelings and standard reactions, men with newspaper brains, television souls, and high school ideas. That's the world we live in.
So good, especially the TV, the series brain or whatever you said.
Wow.
Yeah, television soul.
Television soul.
What a loss of life. What a loss of spirit. What a loss of what the truly great masculinity could look like. So I think these conversations are so necessary, and I don't see anyone else in the world talking about it in a healthy way.
that's why community is super important, man, because you need to find people guys who can talk about this on a level that contains nuance, because that's what's lacking today too. It's like the nuance, like nuance talk. Like you have maybe two conflicting viewpoints, but you can find a way to be okay with somebody else's viewpoint without tearing their whole life and personality down. You know, like, holy shit, man, have some nuance. I know it gets you votes and clickbait and whatever if you like act radical, but that doesn't. Sorry, sensationalist. Exactly. Yeah. But that doesn't help anybody, especially not boys. Yeah, that's why community again is so important, because you need buffers against bad indoctrination, dogmatism, and all that stuff. If you don't have several guys you look up to, like older men, even us at our age, I need older men to listen to their stuff and to actually feel what it feels like to have this strong, respectful, but very strong presence without it being perceived as a threatening presence, because that can easily be the case when you get into this work. Yeah. We need role models. It's just the way it is, and the way it has been for millions of years. You know, it's just the way it is. Well, it's pointless to even debate it.
I love what you said about community.
What?
Yeah. I love what you said about community. It's absolutely true. And it shouldn't, like now, like we had to travel to Bucharest, and in my case, to find that community. And it really shouldn't have to be that difficult, right? To have a local community of elders, of men that guide in a way that, as you said, like a maybe a group of families, some kind of community vibe, but it doesn't really exist. So now, actually, you have to, as a young man, you have to go out into the world and find the people, the community that you resonate with, and find those men that you look up to. But I think the important thing, because I did this for a long time, is just to, look at clips on YouTube, watch another video, like whatever. But what if you actually went out and tried to find these people in person? Eh? One time I was reading Zan's book. I felt so inspired. I had no idea where the guy was, but I just booked a flight to Romania, and I spent a week in Bucharest just walking around trying to look for Zan. I was like, I obviously didn't find him, but and so there's an importance to that, and it calls you to an adventure as well if you follow that call.
Like not everybody believes in a soul, but I definitely do, and I like to phrase it this way: it's a part of our soul that needs that and calls you out to go find it, because you didn't receive it as a birthright, man. Like that's the crazy part. It's a birthright as a boy to be surrounded by a tribe of caring, well-intentioned, masculine men. In my case, that was carved out of my environment. So part of our soul needs that, and it's just like constantly looking out for it. Like I'm very happy I found Zan and some others, but I mean that definitely was a call. Like you said, like you traveled a weekend looking for him.
Yeah, and you acted on it.
Is that rational?
That's the big point.
Right, right. I mean, it's because we need it. Because we need it.
Not by conventional standards.
That is not a beautiful woman, So. There's something there, like I don't know how to explain it. Like we need that initiation, and we need some older, more experienced men who basically give us that thing, like, hey, you're doing good.
Yeah,
you're right.
Yeah.
You see that girl? Here's what you should say to her. She'll like you because you say this.
That's a call.
Even
that's
that.
A call.
And here's how. Yeah.
Right.
And I'll add another point, Marvin. I'm sorry to cut you off. The idea. Actually, no. Go ahead. Let me think about this. I want to say it better.
Yeah, the calling. We talked about this a lot. There are so many calls to adventure, all the time, hitting you, right?
Yes.
And if you're aware of, as you said, your soul. What is calling forth your soul? It can be the smile of a beautiful woman. It can be an author, you read a book and there's some yearning in your heart that you need to go out and find. And if you're aware that these calls exist, then you can, eventually have the courage to take the next step and act upon them, as you did, Rafa, as we did eventually, But yeah, it starts with the awareness that there all the times you have calls coming your way, and if you pay attention, you will feel them tugging at your soul.
Yeah, if you don't,
there's something so missing in the soul of the modern man. There's something that doesn't exist, and you look on YouTube and you see false idols. You see people claiming to be something they're not, giving you coaching advice from their mother's basement. You see these things all the time, except men have no role models, so that's what they settle for. And at the same time, you could view the social media, crypto, AI, digital age that we live in as a great setback, as a great, terrible third circumstance that happened to only you, except if you were to take a step back, men had it bad for all of history. Life has never been better than it is now. In fact, and men have never been worse with women than now. So when you see a girl you like, the chances of a man knowing and courting her and seducing her and charming her in a real authentic way is at the absolute minimum it's ever been in history. Because boys are raised on TikTok and YouTube and Instagram. So if you were to show up, such a rare occurrence in her life, and this girl, obviously girls posting about, oh, I hate being approached. But 95%, I read this about this study, 95% of women wish they were approached more often by a man in a respectful way. And they, of course, girls they can't say I want to be approached by a man who knows how to fuck. They can't say that because they get judged for this, right? But that's a very real, that's the reality that we live in. And you can be respectful and sexual. Marvin, we talk about the respectful man all the time. Of course you're respectful. You would never do it.
Did you say that?
Respectful man. You would never let anything bad happen to her.
That's amazing.
And you would do whatever you want to her. You would say something. You would let me do whatever I want to you, wouldn't you? And she would like it. She would like it because she feels something in her body instead of this brain and knowledge that all of us have way too much of. Information, not transformation. Rafael, I should cut you off.
No, you didn't.
Sorry,
I was actually
ahead.
cutting you off. I didn't hear about the respectual, the word. It's the first time I hear it, man. I love it. It's perfect. I'm going to use it.
Cheers.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I mean, it's like the last part you said about all that information and the cognitive part of especially Western society. We're very much intellectuals, and we tend to demonize a bit, like people who are a bit more wild and savage and all that stuff. Like culturally, that has been the case for a couple of centuries. So that actually, without even knowing it, it got me into body psychotherapy and many things that help you with life, with women, and many challenges we face as men. Actually, most, if not all of them, are about thinking too much, not acting enough. And I mean, acting in integrity and in feeling what's going on, using your body. We're so much up in our heads. I catch myself every day overthinking stuff without even realizing it. Man, stop it,
Because it's so ingrained, it's so culturally conditioned, right?
It's in our lifestyle.
We don't even realize
If you see, I live in a city, it's disconnected from nature, period. That's already one bad thing. We're disconnected, like we're not connected to the cycles of the circadian rhythms, the sun. That already makes it difficult to stay connected to nature, to life, which means as men to women. I mean, I'm getting a bit of a tangent here, but I think the connection part is super mega important. And
yeah,
body-based practices definitely helped me a lot with everything, with approaching, conversation, the seduction.
Can you say
part.
more on that, Rafa?
Yeah,
Can you elaborate? This is fascinating. Can you talk more about what does body-based practice mean as opposed to consuming information from AI and the internet? What is the body-based experience that helps you connect with yourself again, bring that nothing else does in this age that we live in?
How do I explain this? It comes down to realizing that you're not feeling your body enough. That your body is actually designed to feel alive, to feel amazing, to move freely all the time. And when you've been, like I did, consumed so much content, so much information cognitively,
Yes.
you're like physiologically, like you get disconnected from your body. Like the amount of, you call it proprioception, is massively decreased. So by definition, it's going to be hard to relate to somebody else if you're only thinking. If you're not feeling enough what's going on, If you want to be a good dancer, you have to feel the music, feel the rhythm. I mean, the best dancers, they don't even think about what they're going to do next. They just flow with it,
Yeah. It's who they are. It's not what they do. And it's the same with getting
of course,
girls.
I'm not throwing out the mental aspect of life, because it's super important too. But we have definitely overemphasized the mental aspect, and especially with these devices, which are great, magnificent. But I mean, when I start scrolling or reading it, and then I'm in the bus or something, and I get out and I'm in the streets, I need a couple of minutes to clear the brain fog, And literally by walking, I can feel I'm getting down in my body, So it very much makes a difference.
We talked with Matthew.
Go ahead.
We talked with Matthew about the similar process of accumulating a lot of knowledge consciously, and then I think, Justin, you mentioned it. There's the 4 stages. At the end, the goal is to kind of shed these layers of knowledge and become more connected again to your body, and you unconsciously, without thinking about it, you unconsciously, without having to think about it, know exactly what you have to do. Like the dancer who's dancing. Like I think Matthew was giving the example of samurai training, where first you learn all the moves, and then eventually the last step is to get rid of all that knowledge and just act out of your body, out of your pure instinct. And I think that's something you just touched upon as well. The need to shed that part again.
I can give you a very, very, very concrete example I have from last weekend, because I'm following this Chinese medical massage training, which is based on the Chinese arts, and they're very much in tune with nature. Like they observe natural principles, and they're like, okay, let's try and make a model out of it. And there's one thing. So this massage is quite repetitive. So you have to be able to use the technique for a long time for the technique to have an effect. Okay, because it's a therapeutic massage. And so they have this concept. It's called Fa. Fa means technique. So you practice the technique,
Yeah.
100 reps, 500 reps, 1,000 reps. And you practice this technique for years until the Fa becomes a gong. A gong means internalized principle or something like that. It becomes second nature.
Wow. Like your body knows. Your body knows without you consciously thinking about it.
You feel the principle behind it, Like, I'm not just doing this technique because somebody told me this angle is right. I'm doing this technique now because I can sense, oh, okay, this is what it's doing, This is the consequence of just a bit of a weird example, but that's the whole point. You get the information, but if you don't do anything with it, and you just do like information, how do you call that? Informational window shopping. You never go a bit deeper. It just stays on the surface.
Well, you could say
it stays here, and you don't do anything with it. It has to become part of you, second nature. That's why, for example, Alabaster Girl, that book, opened the book on random pages a million times. And things that I've read already 20 times, I reread them today. I'm like, oh man, oh nice, okay, whoa, wow, it hits me different. Because we're reinforcing the underlying principles. Okay, we're getting a bit
Wow.
meta here, right?
No, not really. Not really. Let me tie it to women. The problem that most men have is paralysis by overanalysis. What is different between Rafa, you doing 1,000, 5,000 of the same movements to get a sense of it in your body versus you going and talking to 5,000 women to get a sense of it? What is the difference? Where is the logical gap? And what about and you think, oh well, men don't know how to talk to women, and let's examine why. One, no one teaches you how to be around women except for women, who are more concerned with keeping you safe than bringing out your full expression, right? Yeah. Most women, at least. And so what is the difference between anything you try to do? Sports, fighting, body practice, building a business, versus putting in thousands of hours and figuring it out for yourself. How is women any different? It's like all things that are important in life are learned, and no one teaches you. So no wonder men don't know what to do, and I want to shift the conversation a little bit, because this is actually an exploration of the journey to mastery, right? Mastery with your Chinese practice, mastery with women. Some guys like to master their physical bodies in the gym. Mastery, but then you get these guys that substitute, okay, let me go to the gym, let me make $1 million first, and then let me start with women. But unfortunately, you being good with women, people say you get the money, then you get the power, then you get the women. But that is one way, right? You can, and Johnny Saporno, our friend, says this: you get the women, you get the power, you get the money. Because men are so concerned with things, because they think, right? And Marvin, you and I talked about this, of the generalized, surface, shallow, essentially meaningless self-help affirmation culture that we live in. And men think, I want to meet a nice girl and have a great connected experience that goes all the way from meeting her to having sex to having a long-term relationship. And they think that going to the gym is directly going to help them. Not true. And it helps peripherally, but what are you going to do? Jerk off at home for 10 years while you build your business and make millions of dollars? And then you're going to talk to women?
Let's go.
Anyway, this is for discussion. We don't judge, because no one teaches. No one teaches this, So this is just worth considering about the priorities that men have,
Basically, the difference between mastery and mastery bait.
Very well said.
Recording new language here.
Actually, man, to me, it's becoming more and more all the same. That principle-based stuff, and Johnny Saporno is totally right. First the women, then the power, then the money. Or was it the opposite? Yeah, no. Yeah. Women, power, money, right? It makes total sense, because
no, you're right.
Yeah. In and of itself, the journey as a guy you have to go through to get okay with women in the way your heart desires, that's your initiation. So if you understand that, and you can face that part of yourself in the process of getting decent with women, you can, making money and getting power afterwards is just like, okay, it's a side dish, I'm exaggerating, because obviously I'm no millionaire, but I can definitely sense that the journey for me with women has massively impacted me in that way. Like I also understood that thing of lowering the information, like digesting it, and that everything works with principles. Like information is everywhere, but principles. That's why we look up people like Zen and try to be around them, because they embody these principles. And as soon as you get into their vicinity, you're like, okay. Oh, I get it, because they embody the principles. Like the thing I was talking about with the
you
massage
hang around
technique,
your heroes.
Chinese massage. Like the Fa, like the endless repetition. I mean, a guy like Zen talked and approached and was around thousands of women, before he even got a bit of success. Practice.
Yes.
And he didn't have anybody. We have him and some other guys who have done a big part of the work. So we can learn a lot from them, skip a bit of repetition and go to the principles and the embodied skill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's a concept of 10,000 hours. You need 10,000 hours before you're the master of something, right? So let's paint two scenarios. One is you read your pickup book, you try your lines and your systems, and you spend, I don't know, let's say it saves you some time versus going out from scratch and doing it. Let's say it gets you to 8,000 hours or something. Or you go and find someone that walks their talk. You find a mentor, like you were saying, Rafa, you hang around your heroes. You spend time with the men that you look up to that are so few and rare in this day and age we live in. And you could have read, and this is my story, read Zan's book 100 times. Read The Alabaster Girl, which we'll leave a link for in the description. 100 times. And once you go to Bucharest, where Zan lives, and see the way that this connoisseur of women interacts with them, wow, everything I thought was wrong. Because what he really means is this. And until you do that, all of your pickup books, all of your digital programs, which 2% of people finish, mean nothing. Because you haven't seen it. You haven't felt it. You haven't demonstrated it and taken it and applied it to yourself.
Absolutely. And there's an intermediate aspect to this. Because you either get lost in books, which I did, and then there's the other one where you go and find master or the guy who's doing it. But then in the middle, you can also consume a bit, read a bit, and practice by yourself. You'll fucking make some mistakes that you could have avoided if you had sought out the master before. But if you can't, the second best way is in my opinion, is doing that. You're reading, you have your book, like you can take that book with you. For example, Alabaster Girl. You take it to a cafeteria somewhere in the city center. You sip on your coffee, you read a little bit in the book, and you're like, okay, this is getting me in the right atmosphere, the right mood, the right energy. You look up, you close the book, close the damn book, and just, hey, what's up? You look cute. Second best way.
Yes.
In my opinion, because you're still doing it.
Good point. Yeah. There's the extreme of spending $100K or $1 million on coaching, and only going that way, right? And then there's the balance of of reading. There's the other extreme of just staying at home, reading the book, and just watching, just consuming. And then there's the middle ground as well of consuming some and then also applying it in life.
Yeah,
I like that balance.
Yes, that brings into discussion the difference between theory and practice, right? Because if you're all theory and never practice it, like Rafa, you read the book and then you go do it. If you're all theory, you don't know what it's like in your body. But if you're all practice, without theory, without the guidance of those that have gone before you, you're going to spend way longer than you need to achieve the same result, because you're going to bump your head into the wall and mess up and fuck up in all the different ways that you don't need to, that can be avoided by having some theory. But the problem is most men are too heavy on the theory side and haven't taken any action. So like you said, like you proposed, the perfect middle path is to have theory and practice. I want to give an example. Let's say you'll take 10,000 hours to master your relationship with women, to go as deep as you want, to get as good as you want with women. You can go visit Zan and Johnny, and it'll cut your time in half because, well, these guys know what they're talking about. They are the modern day Casanova. They are Lord Byron. They are in our time, the men that are the best with women in the world. So you go learn from them. You seek out your mentors, just like you would starting your business, going to the gym. You find a trainer, for example. If you come and travel with us in the caravan, for example, where all day and all night you wake up thinking about women, at nighttime you think about women, after you go out to the bar you talk with your brothers about women, you make content online about women, the most fascinating thing ever. How does that affect the quality of your time, as opposed, I'll juxtapose it to going out for 2 hours, maybe 3 hours on Friday and Saturday night, once a week, versus living at 16 hours a day with people that are on the same mission, that will keep you accountable, that'll push you forward. So there's a, I talk too much. There's a big difference.
Sorry. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. It's you want to be the scholar athlete, right? Or the geek warrior, or like
Yes, the philosopher warrior, the warrior poet,
yeah.
Same thing.
Yeah. Like those two have been somehow, for some reason, split apart, and you're supposed to be this brainless muscle guy, or the muscle-less geeky brainy dude, struggling. No, dude, you're supposed to be both. For sure. I mean,
well said.
you need both. Otherwise, you just like. I knew this. I used to do some approaching some years ago with a guy, super cool guy, a herd guy too. So he would approach like a machine gun. He would go off like, like approach 60 women in 3 hours. And it's like, it's a mechanical. There was no like feeling substance behind it. It's just mechanical. I need to approach like a
embodiment.
Machine gun,
Yeah.
That's the guy who studies too much, or like he. No, actually the opposite. That's the guy who doesn't study enough. He just like action. So he doesn't have any aim beyond just the action, like the immediate action. Then there's the other guy who just goes out. I'm guilty of this, and there's some friends of mine with whom I approach are guilty as well. Let's go for 2-3 hours in the city center and talk to some women, and we just end up talking to ourselves. Walking around talking, the video of Zen and that book and that passage of this, and did you see that one? Oh man, I don't know, like and we end up doing shit. So that's too much thinking, not enough action. Right. So both are needed, man. Like I really strongly believe that. Like the academic, but also the practical, like street smart.
Yeah.
Incredible, man.
Incredible.
What do you think, Marvin?
Yeah, I was curious because you mentioned you doing some therapy, you're doing some coaching. Is there anything you're working on at the moment? Any work you do with clients? What's your main focus at this time?
Right. My main focus right now, I'm building this coaching practice together with some friend of mine. We're gonna mentor men with
some fellow Amorati, actually, right? They're in the Amorati.
They're in the Amorati.
They're in the Amorati, right? Your Belgian brothers.
Podcast too with you guys, Mathieu, Sanne. And we're looking at a collaboration amongst ourselves too in the future, in the near future. It's going to be about men's issues, heavily women-centric. But as I said before, and I think you guys agree with me, like most of men's issues can be solved through the journey of solving your problems with women. Because they're just the ultimate litmus test of your masculinity, your manhood, where you're at on that journey.
Marvin said the same thing, man. You guys are
baby.
Great minds think alike.
So that's a strong belief I have, and it overflows in everything. Like Johnny Soporno says, first you understand the women part, then you will get the power part, and then you will get the money part.
Yes, and you don't need money to get women.
Oh man, I can
you don't need tattoos, and you don't need
be a witness to. You don't need money to have women in your life, man. Yes.
Let me tell a quick story. So there is a feeling you get on this path. I will name no names, but where you go to a city and you do not book a place to stay. You just trust in yourself so much that you will find a place to stay because of who you are, no matter where you are in the world. There's a strong feeling of that. And there's a very interesting thing, because how many women actually will give you a place to stay because they're missing some sort of romance that even the guys with 6 figures, 6 inches, 6-pack, whatever, can't give them because they're so focused on building their business. Is a romantic part of a woman that wants to be swept off of her feet by a man of escape, a man that takes her away from her ordinary, boring, societally programmed bullshit world, sweeps her off her feet, makes her feel passion, makes her feel alive. What women wouldn't give to be with a guy like that? And who is only that way because he is true to himself. He asks himself the questions, the hard questions, and takes action on the life that he wants to create. So
100%, man.
I'm going to read a quote here, and I'd like to hear your guys' thoughts, and then we can close out with where people can find you and hear more of you, Rafa. This is from The Alabaster Girl, page 399. The greatest women... Actually, I'll read the whole... it's just 2 paragraphs. It is time. It is time to be magnificent, to live our lives in bold and vibrant colors crayoned against the sky, to look around us through all of our days in continuous awe and wonder and reverence, to romance our women again, to seek beauty and art and grace and nothing else forever, to float above and apologize for nothing in this life. The greatest women are the ones who can see the potential in a man, where it is possible for him to go. There is to be a meaningful men's movement on this earth. It will be led by men, but inspired by women. We can't do it alone. Shiva is useless unless Sati dances around him. Men need to be surrounded by the magnificence and inspiring light of women in order to be great. It is not possible without it. Women have given birth to us all, and it is women, truly feminine women, who will give men the rebirth that the world so desperately needs. Rafa, you go first, and Marvin, you can close us out. I think this sums up everything that we're trying to fight for in this podcast and in the world with the Amorati. And even though each of us is on our individual journeys, it's a collective journey for the Amorati in creating something.
Well, I want to thank you guys for the time, the curiosity you guys show towards yourself, towards life, towards me on this podcast. Really appreciate that. I had a blast. The time flew by. We've been talking for more than an hour. My phone is about to die now.
Yeah.
So, I'm definitely looking forward to more of this, to collaborate. And help spread this message, because I think it's more than essential. If life is to be worth living,
where can people find you?
We have to show guys, young guys, even older guys. We have to show them it is worth living, and beauty is there for you to reach. You know, like within your reach. It's so easy, actually. It's so easy. If I had the understanding I have now of beauty and how easily within my reach it is, if I had that some years ago, man, that would have spared me so many shit, you know. So
Rafa, 2 things. We have a tradition on this podcast when we do the Amorati Spotlight, that the previous Amorati asks a question to you, and Mathieu asked a question. He doesn't know who the next guy is going to be. This question you kind of answered, but I'd like you to answer it fully, is what is worth giving your life for? What is worth truly living for? Take your time.
Oh, man. I'm tempted to go for the cheesy answer. But I think there's some words that pop off in my mind, you know, like joy, connection, love, beauty, legacy. But the most important thing to me care for each other. Like we are the guardians of each other. Like as a species, we have to be there for each other. That's to me the most important thing. That's why I want to get into this. I'm actually already into this work. That's why I'm into that, because I really feel we are stewards of ourselves, and we have lost our way for sure. And that makes life worth living. Other people, and connecting. Because if you don't connect, I mean, what is there to live for?
Amazing.
But not in a people-pleasing way. Finding your tribe and your people and really dying and fighting. You would live for them, you would kill, and you would die for them. Kind of people.
Exactly, and I think that's a profoundly...
Wow.
Now that you rephrased it like this is what men were born to do,
Wow,
and this is primal. To me, this is really deep. It's not like something I read somewhere in a book. It's just fucking primal. Like, it's just the way it's supposed to be,
Beautiful.
So yeah, that's my answer.
So any thoughts, Marvin?
Yeah, I love that.
Marvin, any thoughts before Rafa gives us?
Yeah. I love the words guardians. That resonates with me. And I just want to thank you, Rafa, for taking the time coming on, and it's incredible having guys like you, on a journey together as a fellow brother. And I hope we can have many more conversations like this. It's really inspiring.
My pleasure, man. Thank you.
What's your question, Rafa?
First, you can.
What is your mystery question for the next Amorati we have on?
Footnote.
I'll put. Where can people find you first, and then what is your question?
Easily found it on my Instagram, Rafa Tobón. I'll link it. Yeah.
Which we'll link in the description.
My question.
Yep.
So I have no idea who's going to be next, right? Otherwise, that would be funny.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's a tough one. That's a really tough one. Finding a question that is deep enough to be...
Doesn't have to be deep.
But deep enough that it's
true.
not just cliche and a bit like meh, but also not too deep that it's like existential crisis inducing, Oh man, a question. What beauty have you witnessed today?
Love it.
Yeah, what beauty have you witnessed today in the broad sense? That's what I would like to hear, because it's a practice, witnessing beauty.
Amazing.
Seeking beauty.
Witnessing.
Creating beauty. Witnessing beauty.
Witnessing
beauty.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Rafael. Okay. Until then, we'll see everyone next week. And this has been Rafael. We'll leave everything in the description.
Cheers,
and
man.
We'll see you guys next week.
See you guys.
Bye.